Keep, yeah, keep building networks, building, build with each other. Like, even I've noticed building small groups just with kind of mini affinity groups of Signal chats or WhatsApp, whatever platform people are using, to keep your networks building, and thinking about different ways of connecting when we all get back into a physical space again.
Awesome. So thanks again to all of my panelists, Cyper Collective, Lucy Parsons Lab, Black Movement Law Project, and Future Ada, and for everyone that's joining. Thanks for all the support that y'all have given throughout the last 30 years in supporting EFF. And please reach out. And there's a network of folks across the country that want to support you in advocating in your community. Thank you.
Okay, so that was the EFA panel. Let's go to the chat right now. We're talking about many different things. That question about how the EFA moves forward is that was my question that I submitted somewhere up here. Where is it? I scroll up a bit. Let's see. Right here. What are the next goals for the EFA, and how does the EFF plan to evolve it going forward? What is playing? Oh, these are the bumps. Yeah, we have to make our bump probably later today. Let me just mute this temporarily until the keynote happens. But yeah, this is the chat. This is the Riot chat that they've set up. I have everything working. I also have a mirror of it on my personal laptop. What basically we're going to do today is after that, we're going to kind of fart around until the next keynote shows up. And we're going to watch that keynote. Then we're going to comment on it. Maybe one of my buddies are awake. We can also comment on it. And, 2,600 glass guys here. That's neat. And and then we're gonna probably peek in at a workshop that I was supposed to have been doing before this whole thing happened, but we're gonna get a bit of the end of it. It's the only workshop I subscribed today. It's to the point where now I regret subscribing for it because I guess I essentially took a spot that should have been for someone else, but that's what I get for like being up to like 5 a.m. in the morning dealing with the whole Libra. Basically now Facebook owes me like time on the stream for like the Libra. What the heck happened here? The Libra stuff. Let's do a test. Something happened with the broadcast. Okay, it seems like everything's running again. I just have to reboot the live stream of the this. Let's see. Uh, there we go. So the stream just died on the other end. Someone wrote load icon. Okay. You should be able to hear me audio wise just now. The when we do the actual stream, I will make sure to do the stuff louder. So I apologize for that. But yeah, no, this is sort of I love that they call it's Riot, but literally overnight they changed it to Element, so they were like they couldn't like do anything in time. Let's see who messaged me here. Oh, okay. Ah, well, that's a piece of news. Did not know that. Oh well, they're still really awesome. I'm still gonna help like promote all their stuff. Why is YouTube so low res? What the heck happened here? Like for real. You know what? I'm gonna probably turn off one of my browser things just to make sure I have enough. Like I don't know why the resolution is kicking the way it is on the screen here. This is bizarre. Like, are you guys is the resolution okay on your end if you're on Twitch or YouTube or something? Because on my end, it just absolutely crapped out. Let me try reloading the stream again. See, this is why I wanted to not oversleep, so that way I don't have to deal with like all these crazy technical issues. And like last night, because I could, yeah, I guess our stream is just up now. It just rendered in. Okay. Yeah, because last night was a mess. Everything was going really well. I was explaining Libra really well and everything. And then what basically happened was our big lesson that we took away from last night on Crypto Barons is how terrible of a programming language Rust is. Because I know that Rust is more flowery and complicated than it's almost as flowery and complicated as Swift, and it also what do you call it? It also it's just it takes up way too much processes. And of course, we tried 3 different times, and each time it failed on the same processes because what we basically need in order to load it, which is why I'm going to ask my co-founder for suggestions here, is we need basically like a Alienware level type machine that's running Linux because none of the commands will ever work on Windows because the way it's designed, because it's designed by Facebook, meaning there was no design in it. Um, so that's what's going on. Anyhow, let's kind of talk about the keynote here. Uh, so next is coming up is Richard Thieme or Richard Thiemen, I think maybe is how you pronounce it. Because I'm terrible at pronouncing names. Um, basically, to be a background, he's known as Neural something. I'm trying to remember his YouTube, sorry, his Twitter handle. It's like Neuroman or something like that. Let me quickly look this up. Because I just closed the other browser, meaning I can't look at the our Twitter and stuff. Again, this is why I didn't want to oversleep because I would have all this stuff corrected by now. The good thing though, again, everything was pre-set up, so most of the stuff was me going in and redoing stuff on our restream. It had nothing to do with OBS itself. I launched OBS in like 2 seconds. Yeah, let's find this here. He's known as Neural Cowboy, and I remember him because if I remember correctly, he was. I don't know if he was one of the big talks at DEFCON. I believe he was at some point, but I know there was a year with Roots Asylum. They're like they used to be known as DEFCON Kids. Basically, it's like what their old name suggested. They're like the kids section of DEFCON, where unfortunately some of us, a bunch of hackers have reproduced and have like forked their own repos, and now they have little tiny ones and zeros running around. So it's like, what do you do with them at the con when everyone else is half naked drunk? So they made a kids zone, which I highly approve of. And he was one of the talks there, and it was so bizarre because as his profile says here, right? So get this dude, right? This dude is like I think I think if he did drugs, he would be John McAfee. It's like that level of craziness. He's a former priest who then became a commentary on technology, right? And he he's advised many companies and governments, and he's reviewed main academic work. And the other thing about him is that he's a giant UFO conspiracy person. So, put this way, he's a former priest who is a major commenter to technology to companies, governments, and activists, and is also a giant UFO nut. Like I can't think. I mean, just look at him, his picture. Like I mean, I guess he's a handsome dude, but like that's what if I didn't know what he looked like and I had a picture in my head, that description, and I saw this picture, that's exactly how I would imagine the guy to look. So. So that's kind of that there. I'm just waiting for this panel to start, which will hopefully be in the next 2 minutes or so. Yeah, so it was weird because he was basically in front of a bunch of kids at Roots, and he like half goes into like uh, best security practices, and then automatically goes into UFO stuff. And I'm kind of interested now to see what he has to say because I know he's going to bring up the UFO stuff, and I know if he brings up the UFO stuff, he's probably having a field day that essentially our government is so strained that none of our government facilities are working. And just put it this way, I'm not a big UFO person, but uh, but I think it's hilarious that there's just now videos of unidentified flying objects everywhere, and all the agencies that are normally supposed to be there to take them down, even if they're hoaxes, just don't exist anymore apparently. So we just have everything out there, and there's lizard people, and it's just crazy. So I'm pretty sure he's gonna comment about that. It's gonna be really hilarious. But back to the whole EFA thing. Uh, this is the Electronic Frontier Alliance. We are currently a part of that. because sometimes the list keeps changing. There's we'll read here. Electronic Frontier Alliance is a grassroots network of community and campus organizations across the United States working to educate our neighbors about the importance of digital rights, which is what we're doing. We actually had huge plans for 2020 to really get involved in our communities, and right now we've been involved in some of like the not Black Lives Matter itself, but like the protests going on and making sure people stay safe out there and trying to educate the protesters about like spying techniques and how to protect themselves. Um, the only reason why we haven't done any more is because again, this was supposed to be our big year for that, and then COVID happened, and all the stuff that we were doing involved the Jersey City government. So basically, while the Jersey City government was shut down and now is like at half capacity, we can't do anything yet. We have to make sure everything goes to over 2/3 back to normal before everything happens. But before we get into the keynote, they're looking for freedom of expression, security, privacy, creativity, access to knowledge. This is all the stuff that we currently agree with. And we're going to click the Find Allies, and we're going to scroll down to the Eastern section, and we should be somewhere down here, somewhere under, there we are, DEFCON 201, that's our website. We're in Jersey City, New Jersey. Well, everyone Eastern here is our neighbors. It's pretty fun. Let's see. Yes, we actually did we did an Business Roster. We actually did an entire special stream with Thug Crowd about that, and we keep sprinkling that stuff in there. Eventually, we're going to make a blog where we're going to compile all of our information together, because as people are just reminded, the protests are still going on, and they just got reminded because for a while the news stopped covering them. Now they're covering them again because we have a Gestapo in Portland's going insane. In fact, I just woke up some news today. But yeah, the keynote should be going on right now, so let's watch this, and then we'll explore more hope. So let's enjoy. Oh God, aesthetics. I wonder if Jack has contacted him yet, because we still need the giant aesthetics versus GI Jack fight.
My distinct honor and privilege to introduce to you today's keynote, Richard Thieme.
Thank you, my friend. And I appreciate it, aesthetics. Rachel Maddow says that. Thank you, my friend, and I appreciate it, and I do. You've been a good pal in this crazy wilderness we're wandering for a long time. So I will not have any slides. I'm going to talk with you, hopefully not just to you. And I don't have the slides intentionally because they have often functioned like texting and driving. They take 20% of the brain and they compel you to focus on bullet points, which are the most simplistic way of communicating very little. And I don't want to do that. If you want to write down things, please do. I am available always through the internet, through email, through texting, for any questions you have. But what I really want you to do is think about this. I'm going to be talking about the hacker meritocracy and the methodology it has generated over many years in order to provide a way of dealing with a new challenge, which is not just the pandemic, but all the consequences of the pandemic, which accelerate some of the things which the hacker meritocracy and organizations like Anon have been trying to combat, or EFF, for some time. So I want you to think about it and ask whatever questions you might have. Critical thinking is one advantage we have over people who are invincibly ignorant. And I have learned that life is hard, but it's a lot harder when you're stupid.
How I describe the Trump
So the hacker meritocracy is an object lesson in the evolution of a structure that teaches us how not to be stupid, how to take our essential ignorance into a complex, challenging, ambiguous situation and correct for our ignorance. And that methodology is going to be extraordinarily valuable. So hackers already, good hackers, and we'll talk about that. I know how the word has been bastardized and distorted, but you know what I mean by a hacker. I mean what it means. And the meritocracy is a collaboratory environment which is adequate to the complexity and ambiguity of what we're facing today. And there are best practices. There are best ways to do it, and there are not so good ways. I remember people logging on and saying, teach me how to hack. That was not a very good way to learn how it worked. Better was to do everything you possibly can to learn and know prior to entering into a tentative conversation with the people who are your seniors and worthy of respect in order to ask a question which clearly demonstrates that you've done everything you know how to do to solve it, and then you are treated with respect which you deserve as well, and over time are welcomed into the meritocracy and can move on up. So that was a way of inducing paradigm change. I know that term has been overused, but it's a good term. It came into currency mostly when Kuhn wrote his book on the structure of scientific revolutions. And it is easy to misuse it. And it's easy to discuss paradigm change when you're sitting comfortably in a seminar with a drink. It's much more difficult to deal with in real life and to experience it because we all go through the 5 stages that you probably know of denial and acceptance, from denial to acceptance, including anger and depression and negotiation. And all of those are evident in how people are dealing with the pandemic. At first, it was denied. I don't have to repeat all of the statements that were made from on high that it would go away, and it didn't even exist. And then people got depressed by it, and still are, and angry about it. And the anger is misdirected, directed at people who do or do not wear masks, for example. And then you negotiate with it, and then you finally kind of move into acceptance. But I think we're a long way generally from acceptance. These paradigm changes happen the way Hemingway said bankruptcy happens, gradually and then suddenly. This one wasn't so gradual by our human standards. It came suddenly, and it is overwhelming. And even though a lot of people have been predicting exactly what would happen, the people I knew who worked on terror and bioterror couldn't sleep at night because they expected something like this to be generated, created, and mandated rather than just happening to happen. And it's not unprecedented. Pandemics have raged before. The plague took out a huge percentage of the European population. The Spanish flu has been in the news a lot as people are looking for analogies so they can cope and so we can develop resiliency. And things are bad elsewhere. Syria, on the ground in Syria, it's bad. In most of America, it's not that bad, but it's still bad, especially for those of us who have gotten used to privilege and prosperity and have become comfortable in the new digital world, where we have dedicated ourselves to evaluating safety, which now includes not only information systems, but actual viruses, which can be transmitted not just through a network. Okay, so what have we become? We want to start with some basics, who we really are right now. A quarter century ago, I've been doing this, talking and writing about this kind of stuff for 27 years, just about. And I wrote a column called Islands in the Clickstream, and I coined a phrase, real birds in digital cages. And I said, that is what we had become. And nothing illustrates that fact more than what you are experiencing right now. This is a digital cage with its apparent spatial parameters, but in fact, it's a simulation, you might say, of a simulation, even. It's never been more true that we are real flesh and blood birds, so to speak, but we are in digital cages, unless some of you might be bots. If there are any bots, please let me know, because I'd like to know how many bots are in the audience at any given time, because their questions are usually different. But we're looking at and engaging with this digital construction as if it is, quote, real, because it's so familiar, we don't see its bars anymore, which is one reason, as you know, disinformation as well as information is so easy to accelerate today. I also coined the phrase, truth and lies are Siamese twins joined at the lips, because the minute you could tell the truth, that is by developing speaking thousands of years ago, you could lie. And we know chimpanzees, even without speech, do a pretty good job of deceiving one another when there's enough bananas around that they don't want the others to see.
Although, to be
So
fair, not both
disinformation
things
is
eat
very
bananas.
easy to
It's
accelerate.
actually,
And
most
we are
animals,
also
they
collected in
rarely eat
groups of
bananas, but I get
like-minded
the point.
thinkers, which reinforces groupthink and gives a semi-permeable membrane that keeps out other opposing thoughts or questions. And so those who know how to manipulate us through these digital means collect us in cages large enough to create the illusion of the freedom of flight. So we feel as if we're free because we do not see that the large cage is meanwhile being slowly turned until we are facing exactly the right direction, the intended direction, to see what others want us to see. And so we feel as if we can flap our wings and fly. But in fact, what Facebook and ads and deep data mining and all the rest are doing, again, as you know, is collecting data, parsing it, and collecting it in a way that others know more about us than we know about ourselves, which is the fundamental revolutionary movement going on in identity, that who we think we are is not who we are. And those who know who we are on the basis of the patterns of our behavior, because security or identity is a function not of assertion, but of observation. And that's where the hacking mentality comes in. In order to know who someone really is, you have to observe them in action and observe them long enough so that you are not deceived by intentional disinformation in behavior and word, which confuses you. Anyway, that's a whole other thing. I want to address how our context needs to be seen in order to turn it into content onto which you can get your hands, so to speak, a metaphor. I call them cognitive artifacts, but they're like building blocks as new cognitive structures take place in response to the new environment in which we are living. And then when we have them in our hands, we can build shared beliefs and assumptions about the reality we know we experience. Because the future, that is our action now on behalf of an imagined possibility, is framed by what we believe and what we believe to be true. So I want to address some of the many layers of our lives because these contextual systems are nested, fractal-like, self-similar at all levels, and society and information security work are the main levels to which I'm going to speak. Now, when I speak of the hacker meritocracy, I speak of a process in which beginners can become experts. Beginners need rules. Beginners don't know what they don't know. And when they're learning something in a new domain, they need rules that are free of context completely. They need black and white binary rules. And they are told, if you ever taught someone or were taught by someone and you were a beginner, they are told, just follow the rules. Just do what I say. Follow the rules. Don't break the rules. All right. And you do that long enough to achieve a middle level of expertise or competence, somewhere in the middle. You get a level of functionality because you build up your own database of experience. But if you persist in doing that, you can move into genuine expertise. Now, real experts break the rules all the time, but they know when to break the rules. This made it very difficult when we first began to build expert systems. We thought that with interviews, we could get the heuristics or rules of thumb by which human experts made decisions, and then we could codify them in a whole set of if this, then that, not that set of instructions. And then anybody could become a simulation of an expert by following those branching paths. But what we found out was that real experts
basically have like a
break the
advertising
rules
bot
all the time,
in our
but
chat.
they know when
So
to
I've
break
just
the rules.
gone back into
So we learned that for real experts, there's just one
the
rule,
controls
which is if you
here,
don't know when to break the rules,
and
don't break the
I'm
rules.
going
But if
to
you do, on the basis of
attempt
contextual
to get rid
understanding of
of
the
this
level
person.
of expertise you have achieved, then you break the rules because you don't even know what rules you're following. I remember a nurse, a psychiatric nurse, saying when she first started and she wanted to diagnose whether someone was schizophrenic or not, she had a questionnaire for them. And
Apparently,
and they would
popped
have to
in and
answer all
popped
these
back
questions,
out.
and then she could codify her response. After becoming expert in that, she said, I don't need any questionnaires. I walk into a room, I can
So
smell it. I know if somebody
I'm gonna go
is
in and do
schizophrenic.
this.
I can just tell. Or a boxer who has to think about how to respond to a jab. over time doesn't think anymore, or a martial artist, just is present in the moment and responds. So where we're headed, and Anon is an example of this, and I want to get that on the table right away, in my estimation. Huckleberry Finn, remember Huckleberry Finn?
This is
The
fascinating.
novel. At the end of the
Try this
book, you
again.
may remember that Huckleberry Finn and the slave Jim were going down the river, and toward the end of the book, Huckleberry Finn was confronted with the fact that the slave Jim was property, not his friend, as he had come to believe, and that he
Here we
needed to
go.
return him to his rightful owner. Now, if he did not, two things would happen. In that Bible Belt zone of Missouri in which Mark Twain was writing, you were told by
This is a quick
brimstone
overlay.
and fire preachers that you would be damned to hell
What
forever
you're seeing is this.
if you
This is
didn't
the
do
bot.
the right thing, which was return
And
a
I'm
slave
going to
to his
report
owner.
him.
And legally,
Let's
you would go
see.
to jail because you were aiding and abetting stolen property not being returned to its rightful owner. And Huck Finn sat there all night under a
He's in
tree,
in the
smoking his
live
corncob
stream,
pipe. And
a
in the morning, he
whisper,
said, "Well,
chat
damn it,
message,
I'll go to hell then.
some moderating in the
Damn it,
shared
I'll
chat.
go to hell then." In other words, he was an expert at discerning the real moral level of his quandary, and he leaped to a meta level in which it looked to others who kept the rules, whether religious or legal, as if he was breaking all the rules. But he was, in fact,